How to make someone feel sympathy for the terrorists. Find out in our review of Terror in Resonance. Terror in Resonance is an anime from 2014. It was written by Shinichiro Watanabe, the creator of Cowboy Bebop, and it was produced by MAPPA Production Studio. Music was written by a genius, Yoko Kanno, who also wrote the music for Wolf's Rain and Ghost in the Shell. She is an example of what happens when a Japanese musical genius likes Radiohead. The show has 11 episodes, and we liked a lot about it. So let's start with the original premise. The main premise of Terror in Resonance follows two terrorists named 9 and 12. They constitute the terrorist group called the Sphinx, who causes explosions all around Tokyo. Right from the get-go, the setup of the story is original. I really can't recall any good, and I mean good, movies or shows where we follow terrorists as the main protagonists and we are supposed to sympathize with them. That's what immediately catches your attention and tickles your imagination when you watch the trailer. We want to see what these characters have to offer. Why do they do what they do? And what is their final goal? On their journey, they come across on a more than capable adversary, detective named Shibazaki, and a more than incapable ally, a miserable high school girl named Lisa. 9 and 12 are not portrayed as some ultra cool superheroes without a fault. When we look at them, we see that they are just two kids who had to grow up and mature much too early and learn things that kids at that age aren't supposed to really learn. They use their knowledge and the cards they were dealt with and the situation they found themselves in to achieve their goal. Now, what is really going on in the story? Well, 9 and 12 are kids who were raised in an experimental institution of the Japanese government. That institution that really resembles Kinderheim 511 from Monster is designed to make kids into human weapons. The idea of the Japanese government was to basically make super soldiers and regain some of their military power in the modern world. What exactly 9 and 12 go through in that institution is never explained in great detail, but it was implied that that experience was horrible. So we have our two main characters. 9, calm, cool, composed, with his eyes firmly set on the goal, and 12, emotional, open, friendly, with his eyes also firmly set on the goal, and on Lisa. They escape their version of Kinderheim and live a new life in the world, but never forgetting what they had to go through in the past. This explains their main motivation. All terrorist acts they do are in order to expose all the illegal experiments that happened in that illegal institution. If this was the only thing that motivated them, it would be really hard to really sympathize with them. It would be possible. It is very difficult to make terrorists reasonable and close to your heart. This is where the great setup of the story and realization of the characters really shine. This makes it possible for us to sympathize with them. 9 and 12 make sure that in their terrorist attacks, no one, and I mean no one, actually gets killed, and they try to minimize the number of injured people. This excellent setup gives us, the viewers, some kind of a moral barrier and makes it possible for us to view the characters in a much more deeper way, so that we're not just watching two kids who like to play with explosives. The setup makes it possible for us to root for the characters, to sympathize with them, and maybe even try to put ourselves in their shoes. And makes us wonder, how far would we go and what measures would we take to show the world what injustices and crimes happened to us, to make sure that justice takes its course. When this side of characters is revealed to us, even the music starts making more sense. For an anime about terrorists, you would expect an aggressive type of music, hard rock, metal, some aggressive electronic music, something like that. And the music that we get is melancholic, deep and at moments sad, just like the story that follows the main characters. Next, the character of Lisa steps into the story. She has a life filled with problems both at home and at school. She involuntarily and by a cruel play of fate becomes an accomplice to the Sphinx. Her main role in the story is to complain how incompetent she really is, and to be the love interest for 12. Her assessment is completely correct. Anytime she meddles into plans of 9 and 12, something goes terribly wrong, and she doesn't even know how to cook. It may be understandable that an emotional, unstable person with so many issues would not be capable of helping two calm, calculated genius terrorists. And you really have to wonder, why did 9 and 12 even get her as an ally? But okay. The next important character is Detective Shibazaki. He was demoted and now works in the archive because he was meddling and investigating things he shouldn't have. He will be the main adversary for our protagonists because he is the only one who can follow them on an intellectual level. 9 and 12 often toy with the police, leaving them cryptic clues and puzzles resembling something from the Da Vinci Code. Only here it is done in an actually intelligent way. The only one who can even remotely understand the puzzles the Sphinx gives to the police is Shibazaki. His character is really good and we really like him. But he also seems shallow at points. It seems as though he is only there to show us how incompetent the police is. Also, at the end of the story, it turns out that that thing he was meddling and investigating at the beginning is directly connected to the case of 9 and 12, which seems a bit forced and unrealistic. But this doesn't ruin the overall impression we got of the character. Shibazaki is a good guy. Then we meet 5, a little girl who grew up with 9 and 12 in that weird institution and was later recruited by the Americans. I am sure that CIA taught her many things, but one thing that they did not teach her is how to speak proper English. English, as they often call this, is very strong with her character, and this definitely hurts the ear of anyone who has actually heard English in their life. It diminishes the seriousness of the situation and takes us out of the mood when we hear how horrible her every pronunciation of every English word is, which is a great fault, especially if you strive for your anime to be as realistic as possible. In general, this anime tries to be realistic and serious at all times, so the bad English really takes us out of the experience. The role of 5 in the narrative is for her to be additional contrast and an adversary to the Sphinx. But, unlike Shibazaki, she is not guided by a moral compass. She is guided by her personal motives that are closely tied to 9. She feels the need to compete with him and to prove that she is better than him, not caring if anyone would get hurt or killed in the process. This shows even more how much of a contrast to the Sphinx she really is. 9 and 12 went through the same hell as she did, but they still don't want to hurt anyone. They just want justice to come to light. The character of 5 is written to be unlikable, and she really is unlikable. The plot itself is fast-paced, and every episode has some important development. This gives us an impression of urgency of the plot, as if every second is of crucial importance. This stylistic choice is in parallel with the narrative, because we find out that all 3 of the children that were experimented on have a shortened lifespan, and that they are doomed to die very young. The actions of 5 make the plot go even faster, which results with a spectacular finale, which involves an atomic bomb. The Sphinx somehow managed to detonate an atomic bomb in the middle of Tokyo without actually killing anyone directly. The detonation has an effect that part of the world doesn't have any electricity for a prolonged period of time. In reality, that would cause all helicopters and aeroplanes to fall from the sky, although the narrative stopped that from happening. Here we can note one moment when we can actually question, honor, and ethical value of the decisions of our main characters, because numerous hospitals absolutely demand to have electricity at all times in order to preserve life of many patients who depend on it. And I'm not talking just about breathing devices and similar. Hundreds of devices are daily needed by millions of patients in order to keep them alive, and all of them are out of order. Thus, the Sphinx literally sentenced them to a slow death. This divergence of their code of ethics that they have followed throughout the whole show is bizarre and off-putting, and is completely out of character for 9 and 12. But it could perhaps be justified by the fact that 5 forced their hand and hurried their whole plan. The Sphinx might have had a plan to actually warn the population of Japan that they will turn out their power for a prolonged period of time. This is a weak excuse, but it is the only one I could come up with to justify their actions. Furthermore, if their main goal was to tell the public about that secret institution they were experimented on in the past, why didn't they do it when they were in the center of the public's attention, especially after first few attacks? That would be the simplest and most logical way to handle things. But I guess it would be much less interesting for the story itself. After the great finale, the main characters meet Shibazaki and die. We won't spoil what exactly happens. If anything we said tickled your imagination enough, then go and watch this anime for yourself. Animation is amazingly well done and beautifully depicts every scene of destruction and every explosion. The characters are deep enough to be interesting, and for us to honestly care about what will happen with them. The narrative toys with criminal elements, puzzles mixed with deep ethical themes and questions. What is right and what is wrong? Where should you draw the line in any situation? And where should you continue with your pursuit of your own justice without holding back? No matter what this justice represents for you personally. With its 11-episode run, it is very easy to recommend. There are no filler episodes, each has an exact purpose and pushes the plot forward. We definitely enjoyed every single moment, and we hope that you will too. Do you agree with ethical decisions that our protagonists make? Where would you personally draw the line? Write in the comments below. That's it for our Terror in Resonance review. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, watch some more videos on our channel. That's it for this video. Bye bye.